In this video, I'll show you a Pinterest automation that automatically creates high-quality pins based on your website content. So all you will have to do is enter your blog post URL into this Airtable field, and the automation will automatically crawl this page, extract the images, and then create a highly relevant pin for that post. For example, we can see it's taken images from this article without duplication, and it's created a simplified title that's more suitable for Pinterest. We have a make.com automation that goes through this entire process, and I'm going to go through the entire thing step by step. The automation then creates Pinterest titles and descriptions based on the post, which you can edit if you'd like, and then you can schedule when you'd like that pin to be published directly to Pinterest. And that's handled in the really simple second part of our automation, which you can see here. We are using a service called Bannerbear in this automation, and it's really easy to pick templates and customize them however way you'd like. You could have detailed pins like so, or have simpler ones like this. And by the way, if you want to import these templates at the click of a button, then check out the link in the description to our community where you'll get access to all of our automation templates, including the one in this video. Before we dig into the process step by step, I'll explain the whole process at a high level. We have an Airtable base like so. You simply copy and paste your blog post URL into this field, and we have a new status of generate pin that shows up. It will then pick up each of those Airtable records, and then we'll use a very powerful scraping service called Firecrawl.dev. You can sign up for a free plan to get 500 credits. This will then extract the data from the page in a really friendly format that makes it very easy to work with in our automation. We'll then use OpenAI's GPT-4o to extract images from that article. We'll then call GPT-4o to filter that list and pick out the images that we should use within the pin. In this automation, we're getting OpenAI's GPT-4o to respond in JSON format, which means we're going to get a highly structured response, which will make the automation a lot more reliable. We'll then call GPT-4o a third time and get it to pick out text that we're going to overlay onto the pin. And finally, we'll call this model again to create a title and description, which it will then draft for us and upload to Airtable, which will save a lot of time later on when we're publishing this to Pinterest. And finally, because there are 4 images on this pin template, we have a router here which is checking if there are enough images to fill out that pin. If there are, it's going to call Bannerbear to create that image. And while this looks complicated, it's pretty easy to follow. We're basically just injecting the images that we got from the website earlier on and filling out this template. When we've sent the request to Bannerbear, we then use a sleep tool to just wait for 30 seconds before it tries to grab that image again. We then update that record in Airtable, updating the status, along with the image and the Pinterest title and description. Then finally, once we've reviewed this, we can select Publish to Pinterest, select the date, so I'll select today's date, and then this second really simple automation can run maybe once or twice a day. You can run this on a schedule. This automation will pick up one record at a time. We have a really simple formula here, which only picks up rows where the status is equal to publish to Pinterest and where the published date is before tomorrow. So it will only pick up pins according to the schedule. It then publishes that to Pinterest, uploading the image to a selected board that you want, and adds the title and description as well as the link to the blog post. When that's done, it updates the record to published, as you see here, and then that's the process complete. The real benefit of this process is that you can scale this to as many posts and pins as you want. You could extend this automation to create lots of different templates for lots of different styles of content. This is not one of these generic tools. You can really craft your content strategy and automate it exactly how you want. Let's start from the very beginning. I have a new scenario in make.com opened up, and I have a new Airtable base set up here. I simply have a URL field as the first field. The second field is a drop-down list, it's a single select, and I have the following options set, which is generate pin, pin design created, publish to Pinterest, published, and error. I've added error as a potential option here just to add some error handling to make this automation a bit more robust. The default option for this is generate pin, so when you add in a new website URL, the generate pin option will be selected by default. Then we have publish date. I have this set to date format of ISO. Just select date as your field type, and then image is an attachment type. And then we just have a single line of text for the Pinterest title, long text for the Pinterest description, and finally a notes field for long text. And then go to Airtable and search records. We're currently setting up this automation using the search records module, which we can run on a scheduled basis. Or you could set up an automation in Pinterest to automatically trigger the make.com scenario when you update the status. Check out the link in the description where I've gone through how to create instant Airtable triggers in more detail. I've selected my Airtable connection. If you do not already have a connection, just press add and go through a basic authentication process to connect your Airtable account. I'm going to select my base and select the correct table. I'm going to leave everything else blank, because if you leave them blank, it will retrieve all the fields. Finally, for formula, I'm going to type in status equals generate pin, and I will limit to 1 at a time for the moment. Press OK. I'm going to use this post as an example again. Okay, I'll paste this in. And when I pasted it in, the status already updated. Then I'll try this out. I'll click run once and see if that's picked up. And yes, it's been picked up. Next up, you need to go to Firecrawl.dev. Just start for free with 500 credits. Click on API keys on the left and copy out the API key code on the right. If you do not see one, then click create API key on the top right. Unfortunately, there is not a native Firecrawl module within make.com, but by using the native HTTP module within make.com, you can make requests to practically any public API. So select make a request. We need to copy in this URL exactly as you see it here. Method will be post. Then we need to add an authorization header. So you type in authorization. And then for value, we type bearer with a space and then copy in the API key that you copied from Firecrawl. Body type will be raw, content type of JSON. And then for request content, copy this in exactly as you see it here. Then we're going to select this website URL and put that between these quotation marks after URL. So pause the video if you need to for that. And finally, we definitely want to parse the response. So select yes there. Let's select run once and try that out. It's usually a good idea to test these scenarios as you're going along. So let's have a look. It looks good. Status code is 200. And if we scroll down to data at the bottom, we see content, which is good, HTML, which is good. This is exactly what we want, and it's in a much cleaner format than if we just use the HTTP module to crawl the website directly. That's why it's better to use a service like Firecrawl in this instance. Next up, I'm going to add an OpenAI module, a chat completion. I'm going to select GPT-4o. And this is going to extract the images from the web page. In the system role, we're going to provide a very specific context for what we want this to do. You are a helpful assistant. Your task is to analyze HTML and only return a JSON list containing image URLs contained within src tags. Ignore SVG files, Gravler files, icons, and logos. So we're being very specific. We want it to return in this exact format and ignore images that we don't want in our pin. Respond with a valid JSON list named URL where every JSON object has image upload type. So this particular section is quite important. And in fact, all of these items within this prompt is important because it gets around a potential shortcoming in the way that OpenAI responds. We want this to respond with a bunch of different images because remember, we want 4 images in our pin. But when we ask OpenAI to respond in a structured JSON format, it generally responds with 1 object. So in this case, it's going to respond with 1 object, but it will then respond with a sub list of objects of each of our images. So that is a bit technical, but just make sure to follow this as you see it. This particular prompt does work, and I've copied this from another automation that we have. This particular section of image upload type is redundant. We only really need the image URL, but I'm going to leave this as it is because we have tested this previously. Then finally add message, select a user role for that, and then go down to this HTTP module on the right and select the HTML output from the Firecrawl crawl. Max tokens of 0 to use the limit of the model. Then select show advanced settings at the bottom and response format of JSON. And in this case, actually do not parse the JSON response. Then I'm going to right click and clone that and rename that to filter images. And now I've overwritten the main message content in this, which is just asking it to filter out those, ignore duplicates, and output a maximum of 4 images. And very importantly, we want to update the user content to what we're going to send to this module, and we're going to send the result of the previous OpenAI module to this. And then response format is JSON object, and we want to then parse this response. So why did we parse the response here and not for this one? I'm going to test this out first, and then I'll look at the data and explain from there. So I'll press save and I'll run once. So as you see here, it's responded with this result. It's a long string of text. We then pass that string of text quite easily into this filter images module. Then when we look at the filter images module, we look at the result and we see that it's broken these up into a structure that we can now use in our automation and pass to Bannerbear when we're generating the image. By the way, if you want to save on cost, you could use GPT-4o Mini instead of GPT-4o as another option, so you could test that out too. Next up, we're going to call OpenAI module again, create a chat completion prompt. I'm going to select GPT-4o again. The system rule for this, you will respond in the following JSON. The food type must end in the word recipes. Capitalize each word. Now, this is very much tailored to a recipes blog, so you can update this however way you want. It's going to respond with number and food type. For example, when this is rendered, that will be the number, that will be the food type. And I've also provided an example here just to really steer it in the right direction. Then, of course, make sure to select your user prompt, go to message content, go to metadata from the Firecrawl request, and then select the title. So it's going to extract this information from the title of the page. So max tokens of 0, select show advanced settings at the bottom, and response format should be JSON and parse JSON response of yes. Select OK. So right click, I'm going to rename that to get text. Then I'm just going to clone that module again. It's kind of easier to do that. I'm going to rename that to generate Pinterest text. So this will be for the title and description. I've updated the system prompt for you will respond with the following JSON. You will provide a Pinterest title and description for the provided post. So it will provide these two particular pieces of text, Pinterest title and Pinterest description. Now we're not going to pass in the title this time. We want to pass in the content of the page. Now here's the real beauty of using Firecrawl. In this case, we're providing the content of the page. The content of the page is Firecrawl's like cleaned version of the content, so it's only the text within the main content area of the page. This is in a really clean format that will be more easy to work with and will use less tokens. So max tokens of 0 and parse JSON response is selected as we want. So press OK. So I'll select run once. So I've run that and it looks good. We have two separate items in this collection, the number and the food type, which is good. Now to generate Pinterest text. Again, we have the two separate items exactly as we want. So let's just work straight with Bannerbear and generate the image. I'm going to select create an image. So go to bannerbear.com. You can sign up for a free trial for this. There is a monthly cost associated with this subscription, but if you're going to scale your Pinterest pins the way we're doing it in this automation, then hopefully it should pay for itself. So select get started for free. When you've set up your account, go to templates and then go to type and then Pinterest pin. You can select any of these templates. I'm selecting this low calorie dinner recipes project to start with and then select create new project. I've made some very slight customizations to this template. So you can select any of these items. Then on the top right, you can update the text. So all these images are just placeholders. This text is a placeholder as well. The more recipes at part is hard coded. You select that and at the top right, you can then change that text. So I could type updated text and there you go. But I'm going to go back in and add the previous text. You could also update the automation to inject in whatever text you want into this. So you can go here, you can change the color on the right as well if you want. Then I'm going to click Save Template. Now this is pretty handy. Go down to the integrations instructions and go to Integromat. Integromat is what Make.com used to be called almost 3 years ago at this point, so they should really update their instructions here. But click View Instructions and we can see the project key is here. If this is your first time setting up Bannerbear, go to Add and then paste in your API key there. Then select the template you want to work with and then click Add Item under Modifications. So we're going to go back and go to Edit Template. Then on the left-hand side, we'll see exactly what we want to modify. So we're going to copy out this, which is called image container. So select that. And then at the top right, you can copy out that image container name. Then go back to this. We then want to paste that in here. So the image container name is the first layer that we're going to update through Make.com. So that's the name. We can scroll down and we want to then replace that image with the image that we scraped earlier on. To do that, go down to the filter images, select image URL, and we want to select the first image of that. So it's the first item of the array. And then we're going to do that for all of the other images. So they're all called image container 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll do the exact same thing for the others. Go down, select add item, name is that. We're going to go back up to the image URL, I'm going to select that, Control A, Control C, then down to image URL and paste that. Then I'm going to change that to number 2. Add item. I'm going to add item. I'm going to press Windows V to access my clipboard, and I'm going to call this image container 3. I'm going to go down to image URL, and that will be number 3. Select add item, image container 4, image URL 4. And finally, we need to fill out the last few bits. So we have, this is the title. So when we select this item, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen the title. So we're going to copy that out. So that's the next item we want to update. So press add item, title, and then we want to update the text for that title. And the title is this food type. That was the text that was generated earlier on in this get text call to OpenAI. And then we'll select this. That's called the pre-title. The number section is called pre-title. We'll scroll down, select add item, name is pre-title, and text will be number. Okay, I think that's everything we need. There is a webhook URL. I'm going to leave that blank, and I'm just going to use a sleep tool. I'm going to select tools at the bottom, select sleep. I'm going to sleep for 30 seconds. So we're going to send a request to Bannerbear to request it to generate the image. It will sleep for 30 seconds, then we'll call Bannerbear again to try and get that image. So we'll call Bannerbear, then get an image, and then for image UID, that's the UID that we received back when we sent the message to request Bannerbear to create the image. And finally, when that's done, we'll update the Airtable record. So I'll select update a record. We'll select the correct base, table of pins. So we'll go back to this. We want the status to be pin design created. Go to edit field, just copy that out. Status of pin design created. The image, the file URL is going to be the image URL that we got from Bannerbear, which is this on the right. The Pinterest title is the Pinterest title that we previously generated from OpenAI. Pinterest description is that. And notes can be left blank, so that's okay. Oh, sorry, record ID definitely needs to be populated. Scroll all the way down to the initial first module and select the ID that we want to update. Press OK and press save. Now we're going to go through this entire process, select run once, and now we wait. Okay, it looks like it's been generated. Let's have a look at the post. The status has been updated to pin design created. We have our image, which looks good, and it's generated this Pinterest title and this description that we can then update if we want. Finally, we'll create this last very simple scenario, which then publishes that directly to Pinterest. I'm going to select Airtable, select search records. So I've selected my base, the pins, and I've left all these blank. And this formula, so have a look at this. It's where the status is equal to publish to Pinterest. So to test this, we want to update the status to publish to Pinterest. And we're going to put let's put today's date as a test for this. So where status is equal to publish to Pinterest, and where the published date is before tomorrow. So date add today plus 1 day. So you can pause the video for a second if you want to copy that in. And I'm going to right click, run this module only and test that out. Okay, we see it showing up. Let's test that again. Let's put tomorrow's date in to see if it shows up. And nothing shows up, which is good. And let's put yesterday's date in to check that out as well. So for example, if the schedule turned off for some reason, or if you had to turn it off, then when you turn it back on again, it will still pick up pins for previous dates as well. Okay, I've updated that. So this is a pretty simple formula, which works quite well for our needs. Next up, we'll type in pin and create a pin. If you do not have a Pinterest account set up, press add and then go through the authentication process. It's pretty easy to link a Pinterest account. For media source, type image URL for the source and then select whatever board you want to post to. Now for title, we want to select the Pinterest title from Airtable, the same for description, and then link should be the post URL link, so website post URL. And then for image URL, go to, sorry, just want to make sure you can see that. For image URL, go to image and select URL. So that's the image URL from Airtable and select OK. And then finally, I've added in this update a record module in Airtable. I've selected my board, selected the table, and then selected the ID, which is this ID down here from the first module in Airtable. The status should be published. And then that's all we need. Select OK. Right, so this is marked as published to Pinterest for today's date. This would usually be run on a schedule. So at the bottom right, you'd press schedule, and then you could select, every day, for example. In this case, I'm just going to run this once. So I'm going to select run once and then publish this to Pinterest. That looks good. We have the image pin, we have the description, we have the title, and the link directly to the site. Right, I've deleted that pin because it was only a test. And now we can see this status has been updated to published. So that's looking good. Finally, we'll just go back to the first step in the blueprint. I'll shift click and then drag this section. Then I'm going to add in a router. And this is just a simple check to make sure that there are enough images to work with. So I'm going to go down to filter images and select this URLs. And we're just going to type in length URLs is greater than 3. And then finally, this will be a fallback route. So to explain the fallback route, if there are enough images to work with, it will go ahead and generate this image and go through the flow. If not, so if it does not go through this route, this is a fallback route that it will go through. In that case, we simply just want to update the Airtable record. So I'm going to right click and select clone and drag that. I'll press delete module and we can customize this however way we want. So the status for this will now be error. I'll get rid of this file URL. Actually, I'll keep the title and description in there. And the notes for this can just be not enough images scraped for this post. And error and ID is there. That's all good. I'm going to select auto align just to clean things up a little bit. The real beauty of this approach is that you can customize this process however way you want. For example, in Bannerbear, you can add as many layers as you want to change colors. You could really get quite complex with this. You could even have multiple templates in one automation and then get ChatGPT to recommend which template to use for the type of article you're working with. And of course, if you want to import these blueprints at the click of a button, then check out the link in the description to our community, where you'll get access to all of our automations, including the one in this video. It's an active community where you can get your questions answered. And we also have weekly workshops where you can ask us questions in real time. Check out the link in the description if you want to get access to our community. Thanks for watching.